Well, welcome everyone to our presentation as part of the IT Pro Forum conference. My name is Szymon Machajewski, and I work with the Learning Technology Solutions team at the University of Illinois at Chicago. And today we're going to talk about chatbots. Now, I've scanned the participants list and I see some familiar names, so welcome to everyone who has already perhaps heard me talk about this subject, and welcome to everyone else that is going to be amazed after our presentation. So I'll go ahead and share my screen, and we'll do a couple of demos today. We also are going to just briefly look at what is known to us through research on chatbots, but overall there's going to be room also for questions. So if you have questions, please type them in the chat bot, and one of the co-hosts is going to alert me to some that might need to be addressed during the presentation versus maybe towards the end. So I'd like to start the presentation with a statement that the changing landscape of education is presenting challenges for institutions who must meet the expectations of today's students. Artificial intelligence, or AI, can create a better student experience, increase enrollment, and improve retention by changing the one-size-fits-all approach to student experience for student services, academic and administrative support, and communication. Now, with a statement like that, who would not like to have a chatbot of their own? And really, today we are in the place where perhaps towards the end of the 90s, many organizations found themselves. Let's have a website. Let's put this service as a website. And initially, creating websites was complex, and then it's gotten easier. Today, we are there with chatbots where through Google Dialogflow, for example, a technology that is made available by Google for free, at a department level or even at a course level, an instructor can build a chatbot. And I know of instances where you can go to this chatbot and then ask about the course. What are the objectives? And that's presented to students who are not taking the course just to explore it. And of course, some of those questions can be designed and expected. Now, there are many different chatbots out there today. And if you're calling a major institution for some kind of a support, likely you are first going to talk to some automated system. Recently, Blackboard released their own chatbot that's going to go right into the Blackboard Learn system. This chatbot is called BB, and it's going to connect to help.blackboard.com for specific questions that students might have. And we will probably see more of these types of efforts because, again, technology-wise, it is fairly straightforward today. And really, why not? However, at UIC, before we started on this journey, we explored a number of options, and in cooperation also with our Urbana campus, we actually started to build our own. And it was great, probably the best chatbot ever built. But then we started to really consider how quickly can we grow, and then how about the maintenance of it, right? So those are some of the topics that we've considered. And so as a result, we partnered with a vendor. Now, the vendor for us is Unified. And Unified is a startup that is collaborating with a number of universities. And I have a link towards the bottom of the slide to specifically that offering from them. But we've become a technical partner with Unified, along with some other major universities, to help them create the backend for the LMS chatbot. Now, our first step with them was to create what's called the FAQ chatbot, and that's actually exactly what Blackboard BB is. The FAQ chatbot connected to our answers.uillinois.edu, and so an example here in the slide, how do I copy my course? A very common question from instructors, and so that points to our local KB. But a different type of a question, how can I become a better online student? That's going to take us to the help.blackboard.com. So again, that is what the BB chatbot is doing. And these conversations can be, of course, used by the public. That's the idea of the FAQ chatbot. But we went a step further, and that is where our technical partnership with Unified resides. And that is, we are integrating with our LMS system. So we would like instructors to be able to say, how many assignments need grading today? Or can you tell me more about John Smith? And if that's one of your students, you would get some analytics about what the student is doing in terms of how long they spend in Blackboard, how many times they interact with the course, and then their grades, of course. And then for students, we want to know, what are my grades? Do I have any homework due? Who are my instructors? Now notice that way back when, user interfaces started as command line, so written text interfaces. Looking back at AT&T and the first Unix systems, of course, if you're a Linux user, you still are doing the command line interface. And so you wrote, and it was very accurate. It's very reliable, but it's just not good for human beings. And so later, from text interfaces, we had the GUIs, graphical user interfaces. And so we had the beautiful desktops with icons we double click on. And then those interfaces were taken online so that we were very independent on the devices we were using, but they also were very rich in terms of graphics. And today, of course, we have mobile interfaces, but we see this kind of a switch back to a way so that we don't have to learn the interfaces, and that is now the conversational interface. And so this can be done by talking to an audio assistant. This can be done by chatting with the same kind of a brain. And that brain, of course, has AI behind it to be able to link what we are saying in terms of audible words, but then what our intents are. And so we see this as sort of a natural progression of interfaces. Instead of instructors clicking on 15 things, depending on the LMS, in Blackboard might be 17 things, but you click there to get to the grades. Why not just say that in the chat, and the system responds to you with exactly what you're looking for. Now, in the next slide, I want to show you what our design phase looks like. So when we design conversations, we often work already with a much technology that's working. So we already are able to pull courses out of Blackboard in the chat, but we're able to list students and get their information. But we don't want to have this kind of an FAQ approach to our chatbot project. In other words, a single question simply results in an answer. Google can do that, fairly well. So to design a conversation, we're going to start somewhere, such as an instructor here might say, tell me more about the student. And then through a conversation where we ask follow-up questions or maybe list the students in the class and allow the instructor to click on things, because a chatbot doesn't necessarily mean that you have to type everything in. You have buttons you can click on to make selection to expedite a conversation. But then we are able to reach for data analytics. So you might see here last login time, and then assignments that the student has due in the courses that I am teaching. And so as we design these conversations, then we're working with our partner to get them implemented. And so I want to demo some of those things just to show you that they actually do work. So first, I'm going to be on our main Blackboard page, and you feel free to navigate there. You will notice that the chatbot hides in the corner. So you notice that it hides. We're working on ways to make it more visible, to without being obnoxious and popping up everywhere, to be more available to students. But right here, I could ask the chatbot. Let me see my notes here. All right, so let's say that somehow tutoring comes up in the conversation. And by the way, the AI's role is to make sure that any mention of tutoring within a context gets that intent. And so we have opportunity to include pictures in the chatbot and links. And so here, of course, we advertise the beautiful service that UIC provides. But then at the end, notice this, we can follow up with a conversation. Would you like to read an experience of a student who took advantage of tutoring services at UIC? Well, natural response, yes. And this is where we randomly pick, I think we have 4 or 5 different experiences. And so, in the words of a student, this is why the tutoring worked. And so notice the different thinking about data. It's not just a quick response, but we can pull into a conversation and then have a decision tree from there. And of course, this is the FAQ chatbot. This is running in production right now at UIC. And the most common conversation in terms of support, passwords, right? So what is my password? And this was the first conversation that we tackled because this is just such a common theme in needs of students and faculty. And so, did you forget your password, right? So we started in the middle of the conversation. We're not asking here uh, um some of the other details, but we just want to know, did you forget the password or do you think you remember it? And this is an example where I could keep chatting. I could say yes, but I can also click on a response. And so here's where we are then pointing the student for the follow-up to the conversation. But we were able to flatten this conversation from a decision tree that is quite extensive. We were able to flatten this so that in just a couple of steps, this is the best we can do for you. And sometimes one of the responses there is contact us because based on our research, that's what's needed. Here is another example. And again, we're still in that FAQ product with Unify. I'm missing a student in my class. All right, so missing a student. First of all, are you a student? And we'll say no, I'm an instructor. And so here's where the chatbot can go into a little bit of background on how students make their way into the LMS, and then instruction on how to add a student. And the feedback we've gotten over time is that, hey, really this button is difficult to find, so we can illustrate it. We have a nice video that you can jump into where we take you through the whole process. And this was considered one of the top questions that the instructors ask. And so notice a follow-up. Do you think that you can do this now? And if you say yes, we're going to thank you for the conversation. But no, I don't feel this is enough. And so then we ask that you contact us directly. Just going back to now the second level, this is the LMS integration. This is the second part of the project. This chatbot actually talks to Blackboard. And so in this instance, I can say something like, show my courses. And at this point, it was verified that I'm logged into Blackboard. Because I am logged in in a different tab, my courses were listed. So notice that at this point, we are able to get the data, we have the design for the conversation, and we are moving forward with our project. Just to show you that this actually does that, I'm going to open a private window where I'm not logged in, and I'm going to pull up this chatbot, and we'll also ask show my courses. And so at this point, notice that it was going to say, hey, help us to understand who you are. And we're going to log into Blackboard. And so behind the scenes, it's going to make a call to REST API. And that is the common way or the current way of talking to Blackboard Learn. And it returns the data that we're looking for. So the placement of this chatbot, we put it on the login page, but we also included it in the tools area. So any of the courses at UIC that have the tools area, you can start the chatbot from there. And of course, now we are working on what's called the Ultra framework, which means that we'll be able to include the chatbot right on the base navigation. It's actually going to be the same places where the opportunities for the BB chatbot to be exposed. So the chatbots are, of course, designed by our team to do that. Now, in addition to this work of chatbots and reaching into Blackboard for grades, for activity information, we're going to try to balance our approach. And some of the projects we're running put more of a human perspective on academia and learning. And so this is where I wanted to talk for just a second about a related project, our photo roster. Now, whenever you have a conversation with a chatbot, you might notice that, um, say, if you say, I don't feel well, which, by the way, is one of conversation that we take fairly seriously, and of course, we expect that students might talk to the chatbot in ways that they are not, opening even to human beings. But notice the sort of empty icon here that shows of the person who's talking. And so we feel like our related project of the photo roster is going to help us to put the right face on the conversation and to make it more relatable. But also when instructors ask, tell me more about the student, that we'll be able to provide this data in this kind of a format. And this is, of course, the photo roster project that we have at UIC, where we are able to collect our photo IDs from the picture ID system. And in addition to that, we are now able to sort this display by merge sections and also by groups within the course. So if the faculty create groups, they can go ahead and preview them this way. Also, in the photo roster, when you pull up someone's picture, you have opportunity to go directly into the user statistics. Now, if you are a Blackboard user, then you might be familiar. User statistics is the screen where you can see all the grades for the student and their progress in class. You can also email the student, and then you get to go to the pronunciation of the name for the student through Google Translate. And what's interesting about this is that we actually prefer to ask the student what the pronunciations of their name, but sometimes that is not available. And so Google Translate does a great job even linking to specific background. And then, of course, audibly, you can hear what that pronunciation would be. The suggested pronunciation can be given by a student. And so this part of the interface actually is created through another LTI tool that students can see. And this LTI tool, again, brings that human side of our systems, in that we have an opportunity to talk to students about identity, about using preferred names, and also personal pronouns. So we ask about, what is your preferred name? And of course, here is what we have for the particular student. And then we can move on and then have a moment with students to explain what are these him, his that they see in faculty signatures, and why is it okay to express that. And that information is, of course, collected and then displayed in the photo roster that I'm demonstrating. And so this is the kind of information that we hope that the chatbot will also be able to consume. Within the photo roster, of course, you can make your own notes. And so let's say you have a conversation within office hours with a student, and you want to remember, right, encourage singing career. Here we go. And so as you save this piece of information, it's going to be there. And the indicators under the picture tell us that, hey, the student requested a preferred name. They also have a pronoun reminder, and they suggested a pronunciation. In addition, we have reached into the analytics sphere, where we are indicating if the student never logged into Blackboard. And so that's important to keep this in front of a faculty. So this becomes like a course dashboard. And then if the student did log in, but more than a week before, then number of days will be specified here. And if you click on this indicator, it takes you directly into the retention center of the course. So again, making this a course dashboard, but bringing that human element where you see faces of students, where you make a connection between your office hours or something that happened in the classroom, and you can make a note of that right along the picture of the student. And as these notes add up, they will follow you as the faculty from class to class, from semester to semester. Other faculty do not see your notes, but it does help you to relate to students to remember their names, and to basically become uh, um, more effective from emotional intelligence standpoint. And so we hope that in the design of our chatbot, we can include those elements, and that the chatbot, just as it might be interested in your health, and we have a certain conversation connected to COVID, for example. Uh, as we introduce these conversations, we can understand that there's a human level that certainly AI has to learn. Of course, many people do it as well. Instructors aren't exception to it. Uh, but things like the photo roster do help us to focus on that human element, and to wake up, of course, in us the parts of memory, the methods that help us to really to remember some of those details. Okay, so that's a part of the photo roster. Now, I do also want to mention that both the chatbot project and the photo roster project are following an agile development framework. And why is that important? Well, if you think about products such as a car or a phone, you might apply design thinking, you might apply some of those industrial methods where once you get started on it and it's in production, you can really modify it well. But the software projects like the photo roster and the chatbot, the amazing thing is there's an undo button for most of it. And those behave differently than physical objects. And therefore, the agile method of project management, where we can meet with faculty, we can adjust and redeploy, we can check with our functional owners quite often. The agile framework for software development has been successful for the last probably 20 years. And this method can be applied to academic projects. Now, the easiest project to apply it to would be your own course. So if you have a course that's going to be taught inside of an LMS, and so this could be synchronous, asynchronous, HyFlex, whatever it is a piece of software. And so why not take on Agile as this kind of a successful way of building software and apply that to your course. Now, that means that you might have Scrum meetings. That means that you might work with sprints. But most of all, we start understanding the value of feedback and value of relationships with our source developers. And that's what basically the framework is about. It's really more of a mindset. And so this is the mindset behind the photo roster, where Professor Martina Bodem from our mathematics department helped us to create the to-do list and to make sure that it worked as needed. Her courses have 500 to 800 students because of the merging process. And so one of the problems was, hey, once you have a course larger than 30 students, this is loading very, very slowly. And so in the most recent version, we're able to create an exponential increase in response for that reason. So now 800 students load very, very quickly. But then also, that's where the merging by or splitting by a merged course or splitting by groups comes from. And so we create these relationships that are very, very productive, and they keep us on that agile framework where we don't establish requirements 1 month. 5 months later, we complete the first phase, and then we ask faculty to go back 6 months, to create a new list of requirements. So certainly, the agile development is something that we're going to continue to work on, but certainly advertises as a great way to tackle some of the online course development that needs to take place between now and future semesters. And then focus on data analytics. All these projects include elements of data analytics. So in terms of some of the words that perhaps are new around chatbots, intent, right? So intent is what the computer understands. And then when we speak words and sentences, this is like a large funnel that it's the job of AI to narrow down to an intent, such as, I'm really sorry, I cannot remember my password. And so this has to be narrowed down to something specific. And so that's part of a chatbot. Machine learning and some of these other ideas, of course, I put them on the screen as sort of a background information, but something that we continually are looking into. So another look at it includes sentiment analysis. Now, this is important because human beings can hear the emotional charge behind words. Now, that can be in pausing, that can be in the volume. Um, Today, the AI is tasked not only to understand words, but also then to determine the sentiment. So, is someone angry? Is the person satisfied? Are they joking with us? And so these are elements that make conversations successful when we understand these elements. In some simple terms, why are we doing chatbots? Well, because it turns out that to complete simple tasks, command line is really better than and more reliable than GUIs. But in this instance, people actually prefer to complete simple tasks through automation, such as sending a text message instead of calling someone and have to go through the process of saying hello and all the other things, turning a short task into a 10-minute conversation. So it can save time. In academia, though, because of the complex relationships, why would students want to use uh, a chatbot to explore the syllabus instead of emailing the faculty, right? So there might be reasons why they don't want to be, on the list of uh, students who bother instructors too often, and so this is where the niche comes in for this technology. And of course, these are 24/7 services. And so obviously there's a benefit to that. And I included a couple of links there of some current articles that quote some research. And today, really, this research often means surveys, right? So it's not necessarily as scientific as we would like to have it. And a few pieces of data that is connected to research done by Campus Consortium, which Unified is part of. And so that's how a number of universities are able to work on some of these projects. But basically, AI and chatbots are on some kind of a top 10 list for executives as well as administrators on campuses. In sort of visual terms, uh, we can see that quite a few institutions are exploring AI, uh, perhaps in response to the quarantine, but even before that, AI was something that we had hopes for to create more impact and to really have the robots work for us so that our efforts can be scaled. And so the question here, where do you envision utilizing AI on your campus? So enrollment, financial aid, the help desk is huge. Today, of course, Blackboard does offer that BB service where the help.blackboard.com is free. But if you would like to have your own support included, then there's a charge for that. Um, what's not included here is that effort that we continue to power, and that is let's enable academic activities, so academic systems, so that if the student wants to ask, what are my grades? Then that can be available through the chatbot. The total number of higher education respondents to this particular poll. And so what we notice is that uh, the interest in AI is, of course, in higher education, but also in other areas as well. So at this point, I would be happy to entertain any questions, um, and again, feel free to put them in the chat, or if you would like to get on the mic, please feel free to do that as well. Okay, so Liam is going to pay attention to the chat, but while questions are brewing, I'm just going to go back to our demo system and just here we go.
Simon, I have a question.
Yes, please.
So, uh, the technology itself, it sounds like you're working with a vendor. Who is helping you develop the actual models around the psychology behind what is the AI actually going to be doing and why it's doing what it's doing?
Yeah, thank you. So our cooperation with a vendor, I would say that it's a partnership really at the development level. So we are using the Google technology Dialogflow, and this is the technology actually that we identified even before we um, create a relationship with a vendor. But you're right, the technical elements are there. We're hoping that it's going to be a long-lasting relationship. As far as the creation of the models, and I mentioned the kind of an agile approach, we are reaching out to faculty. We feel like faculty are our closest allies in terms of really finding where the niche opportunities are. And so this is the conversation that we are designing right now for faculty. So what was identified was that often um, having more information about a student in Blackboard might be tricky to find. So to collect all the little pieces, such as their grades and when they logged in last, and so being able to do that quickly in the chatbot was one of those niche needs. Um, do I have anything to grade? And here's again where in some courses where grading happens um, by students submitting, then indicating his this is ready for grading, that this was an opportunity because um, sometimes faculty have to log in to the system multiple times and then go to check sometimes multiple places are there new submissions. While there are certainly interfaces that the LMS has provided to cut down on this, and of course the homepage, the Blackboard homepage is one of those tools that does not seem to be present in most of the courses. Um, in fact, this term we made an effort for all spring 2021 courses to have a unique course homepage with features from the department, such as pictures and links to their news. And that also then included those portal windows that include my to-do list. Um, but again, that data we feel like being available right through the chatbot, um, will fit the needs of the faculty. And something that we have to understand about chatbots is that, especially through technologies like Dialogflow, it opens the door to distribute the same conversation, not just through text, but also through voice or telephone. So we have options to deploy, for example, to Facebook. And so what students would do is they would friend our chatbot on Facebook, and whenever they use Messenger to talk to the chatbot, they would be able to say things like, "What are my grades?" Or a faculty would say, "What are my the assignments that need to be graded?" So these conversations, we hope, again, through that agile framework, we hope to bring in functional owners, and of course faculty are such a group. We have not yet reached out to a group of students other than our student employees, and so we have worked early on with students to test, to suggest conversations that need to be added. um, but that's our approach. We hope to have a very open door in terms of people that we're working with. And the agile process encourages short sprints, so maybe a 2 weeks worth of engagement to get something accomplished, and then moving on to something else. So in those short sprints, we hope to cover many relationships, but also many individuals, and then we can of course uh, uh, judge how effective that is, and then create a group of collaborants that are more productive and then move forward.
We got a question in from the chat that's similar to what you ended with there. So, how is the information that the chatbot knows or is trained with gathered and put into the system? What does the development time, training time look like for that process?
Very good. So on the FAQ side, in other words, perhaps the question really is, which KB articles are in the chatbot, and the answer is all of them. What we did was we early on decided anything that had to do with Blackboard in the KB, let's go ahead and make it part of the chatbot. And in our first release, we actually were entering quite a bit of these. But now Dialogflow has a knowledge base functionality, and as long as your knowledge base is somehow formatted in a predictable way, you simply provide a URL and you say ingest the content, and it will take in the titles with the questions and then the responses, and it'll create a chatbot out of that. And not just that, but it will every day check that these responses are still current. So some of that decision making is out of our hands. We just took all of it. But when it comes to that second product, the LMS integration, we certainly are taking our time to identify which conversations should have a high priority to be there available first. And the kind of decision-making process is around, do the GUI interfaces already exist for this content? And you might be surprised to know that we don't have GUI interfaces for things like how long has the student spent in Blackboard last month, or in comparison to an average student in the class, how many hours of Collaborate did they consume, or how many times were they clicking inside of the class? And so instead of creating visual interfaces for that, we're going to move that with higher priority into the chatbot. But of course, then things like grades. What are my grades? Now, those interfaces are available. However, they are spread out. So for student to see all their grades in one screen, um, it may not be as easy. So now when the student goes in the chatbot and says, what are my grades? It'll list the course and the grade, list the course and the grade, and it does so in a very concise way. Um, some of those decisions, again, we're making as part of the collaboration with our um, subject matter experts, or in Agile, I guess they would be the functional owners. But on a very short notice. So we hope to have a short list of tasks, select out of those the ones that we can complete quickly, and really have this development happen quite rapidly. Perhaps I would add as well that um, the unified project there, while they do have a number of different products, such as banner integration, and they have some mobile apps available, uh, we do continue to look for partners for the chatbot project. So the hope is that the more universities explore the chatbot, and again provide the ideas for the conversations, the quicker the other institutions can progress. And we're working with a number of institutions like Wharton Online, as well as Columbia, and not all of them use Blackboard, right? So they use other LMSs, and the integrations there are supposed to be built in such a way that if a student says, "What are my grades?" that of course what comes out. But the idea to create new intents and the idea to create conversations is also created as a group, so multiple universities can participate in that. So on that second part of the question, how long does it take, development time? So for us as an institution who is running a chatbot, we can add new conversations quickly. So we have access to the production chatbot as well as the development one. But um, adding new conversations is fairly trivial. You type in um, the name of the intent and then three ways of expressing. So let's say it's the password intent. You would type in, what is my password? How can I find out what my password is? I'm having trouble logging in. Help me. And so at least three, but you can enter more if you want to. But that helps the AI through machine learning to match all kinds of expressions to that intent, and that happens automatically. And so then we just would type in clear text what the response should be. Um, and you have options to randomize responses or include follow-up questions. So the creation of new intents can be very quick. And a good example is the COVID situation. On the back end, we are monitoring what are students asking about, and when there are intents that are unmatched and the bot has to say, I don't know, we are able to have those flagged. And so one of those had to do with COVID. And so we were able to quickly, put a response and then research, okay, what this response really should be. And so to provide some suggestions, on how students can handle either their fears and their suspicions, and then what the recommendations are. The training for people to use the chatbot, the dialogue flow. Um, Again, this should be fairly rapid, just because by now this is not brand new technology, and there are quite a few tutorials, videos, and so forth. But again, the creation of the chatbot today is where the Wix, website building tool is. You're no longer dealing with code. You simply are saying, I want a chatbot, and this is the question that will be asked. This is the response. And then you can all, of course, hand off to advanced APIs, such as when we call the Blackboard REST API, the details. And of course, for a developer, that would take a little bit of more time, just like learning how to use REST API on the Blackboard end. But for the short FAQ conversations, I would say that the startup time can be very rapid. Let's say a department decided to have a department level chatbot on their website that informs students about what the news events are, or how to become a student, or maybe share some experiences. So really, content of your public website turn into conversation. The startup time with Dialogflow is not going to be much. Well, with this being the case, looks like perhaps we've answered some of the questions. I understand we're going to post the recording as well, our slides, but if you want to reach out and to ask follow-up questions about the photo roster or about the chatbot, please feel free. We hope that if we can collaborate with a wide variety of staff and faculty and students, that the kind of agile thinking is going to benefit us long term. So any questions or suggestions or otherwise conversations are very, very welcome, just because of that agile mindset that we're trying to promote. And certainly we feel like the agile software development approach can be very successful in building online courses and online environments.
Thank you very much. And let's go to a word from our sponsors.
Thank you.
Thank you.